And here we are again.
Yeah,
Dwayne, thank you flying in from Texas to come and join us here at our house.
yeah, yeah.
Feeling a little rough this morning. We had some folks over and you showed off your musical skills. It was a great time, but much alcohol flowing. And yeah, here we are this morning, feeling solid.
Yeah, I did my thing last night. It was good. It was good, but yeah, it's a new day. We've been looking forward to this, and
Yeah,
here we are. So yeah, I'm pretty jazzed. Thanks for inviting me. I really do appreciate that. I've said that before, but I want to say it again at the beginning. This is great to be able to
I'm
come here.
really excited to have you here and to share the story. And normally I start at the beginning and we build up through it, but I think with you I want to take a different tact. I want to start and talk about you're in your early 60s, handsome bastard of a gentleman, if I do say so myself.
Do you think so, Sarah? That's the only
Go.
one that matters.
That's true. Like if
You're
she
very pretty.
All right, thank you very much.
Woo!
God for that. All right, that's cool.
So you're doing some public speaking. I didn't realize until we spoke. You've written a book in 2015, which I'm about a third of the way through, and I'm going to hear a lot of your story today, along with all of you. It's good. It's going to be a doozy. But today, like I said, public speaking, the book you wrote, and tech. You've been in tech, since the late 90s now, I guess.
I've been in tech since 1987.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, since 1987, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been a while. Been working with Microsoft's ERP system since 2008, so that's for 14 years, and that's probably I'll be riding this wave until I'm done
Yeah.
working. This ERP system's going to be out there for a long time. They need technical people, and I can do it. So
Yep. Well, I mean, it's fascinating to me because usually, almost everybody in the room here has spent some time at Microsoft, and you hear lots of different stories. Yours is a entirely different one. Most kids, they get right out of college, or maybe they jump in and start doing contracting stuff, and just land there. Your upbringing, as I started reading your book, was a little bit different. Grew up in Oregon, and kind of sounds like perhaps it started early with an incredibly abusive father. I don't want to say I'd love to hear about it, but I think it's important that
sure,
we talk a little bit about how you
sure.
came to be here today.
Yeah, I mean, just a little forewarn is that if anyone's listening that has been through trauma and has a troubled past where there's been abuse growing up, you could be triggered by this, and I just wanted to set that out ahead of
Yep.
time, just out of respect to you, that it's something that concerned you, because yeah, we're going to be talking about things that are going to trigger.
I have a feeling we might brush on a few subjects that make people feel the feels.
Sure, sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, no, so just go ahead and what from what perspective would you like me to start?
I wanted to just kind of look at the early years.
Yeah.
It was you and three brothers with mom and dad, kind of all over in Oregon.
Sure, just get the time period. So I was born in 1959.
Yep.
I have two older brothers. One was born in 55. I think the next one was 57. So I was the baby. So I have two older brothers. I think my dad was like 22, 23. He had been in the Marine Corps
Yep.
just for 3 years, but it really became his identity.
It does often with Marine Corps folks.
And he just felt that the military was everything. So, he had three boys, and he had an opportunity to what he thought the best way to keep us out of trouble, to keep us from ending up the way he did, stealing cars and, getting in trouble and going to prison, going to jail, and all that. He's going to keep us out of that. And, yeah, he felt that if he just beat us enough, then we, wouldn't go that route.
So beating. I mean, that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different folks. Little bits I read, it seemed that your father had a favorite table saw that he liked to rip pieces of wood, and that saw firing up was a cue to you guys that one or all of you was about to have a real shitty time.
Yeah, I do remember my older brother Dennis. I don't know why I was counting the days, but Dennis heard that saw 13 days in a row. I still remember that for one thing or another. Yeah. But you understand, so we grew up in the country. My dad had a decent wage job. I think it was an $8 an hour job back in the
Good money.
end of the '60s. And he was an iron worker. Became a steam and pipe fitter, so he was like that. He's very, very good with his hands. And we grew up in a country where the things that happened to us and the way that we were disciplined, we thought everybody was like that. But now I look back and I realize I was very secretive. I never told anybody about it. I was ashamed of it, but I really didn't understand that I was ashamed, you know. So he was a strict disciplinarian. I think one of the worst things, let me just give you an example.
Yeah.
One of the worst things I thought that I could remember, I think I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and my dad was outside, and he was a big man, he's a strong man.
Iron workers.
And we get our few cords of wood dropped off at our house, and it's got to be chopped up. So my dad's chopping, and I'm grabbing from that stack, and I'm going down to the basement. I'm stacking in the cellar. Well, my pile starts getting bigger and bigger because I'm young. I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and I'm grabbing the wood and running down to my dad's chopping this wood. And he stopped and he looked at me and he shook his head and he goes, you're useless. And I said, I didn't say anything. And he said, I said, you're useless. What do you say? And I said, yes. And he said, yes, what? I said, yes, sir. And then the next thing he said is, well, you need to say it. And I had to say, I am useless.
What a way to build up a kid's self-esteem.
So here's why I tell that. It's not just for dramatic effect. Like, this is not a woe is me type thing, and it's really important to understand that I accept responsibility for all the things that I've done. But to go back and look at that period of time, I was being told my value. I believe that these people, these big people, we're little people, and these big people, they're going to tell us who we are by what they say and what they do, right? And we're going to interpret my value from what they're doing. That's how we operate subconsciously. So the reason I mention that is, I was to the point where I felt I had no value. And that's a pretty bad place to be, because when we feel like we don't have value, when I felt that I didn't have value, I certainly didn't value you.
Yeah.
Getting to the point later where I was violent and I took money by force. So my oldest brother got kicked out when he was 16, taken down to Children's Services Division, and that's how they did it. They got in the car. Actually, Dad went to work.
Sent Mom to drop.
Mom and the station wagon that took Dennis. And I didn't really understand what was going on. He had stolen some wine from a store in high school, and he got caught. And they just felt like, okay, he's incorrigible, and you got to get rid of him. So they went down to Children's Service Division, and literally dropped him off. You get to say, well, here's a caseworker, and that was that. And then my brother just really struggled in life to the very end for the rest of his life. He's a severe alcoholic, went from foster home to foster home. Just had a really difficult life. He was very uncomfortable to be around. He was, and my parents screwed him up really bad, and he just honestly never really recovered.
Yeah.
So and then the next brother immediately went to the Marine Corps.
Yep.
He said, whatever, if I don't do anything wrong, then I won't be beat, and that he lives his life to this day. So I went to the Marine Corps, then went to the Annapolis Naval Academy, went back to the Marine Corps, and he left as a lieutenant colonel.
All right.
Worked for another,
stuff.
so he's doing well. And then, so myself, I'm saying, fuck this. And I started sneaking out at night and started acting out, but, doing it pretty stealth. But, my parents kind of figured out what was going on eventually. And I stole some money out of a cook's purse and at work. And they found out about it. And we had a discussion on a Sunday night. I still remember they would sit in their chairs. I would stand in front of them. They always made me do that for the time I was a kid. When they talked to me, they would sit and I would have to stand in front of them. And my dad, he knocked me down that night. He did. He hit me and knocked me to use because I said the word shit, and he got up and punched me.
Oof.
And they said, he goes, all right, well, we'll decide tomorrow. I'll come home from work and I'll let you know, but you might be packing up your things tomorrow. And I was almost through my junior year in high school. This is April of my junior year, so I'm almost done.
Yeah.
And I came home from school the next day, and there was a empty box there, and he said, pack your stuff. So I took everything that I could in the box, and the next day we went to the Children's Services Division, and they dropped me off.
I remember that there was a moment in your book, looking at the taillights of your dad's car driving away.
Yeah, I know.
That's
It's a heavy scene.
and you're what, 16?
Yeah, I was 16. We went inside. Roger Matson would be my caseworker, and Roger Matson said, "Well, there's family counseling." And my dad goes, "No. He goes, "No, he's not coming home." Jesus. And you got to understand, though, I was happy at the time. This is a brutal time, but I was happy. I'm going, I don't want to go back there.
You're getting beat on the
Anything's
daily.
better than this.
Yeah.
So for the next 8 months, I changed places where I slept 24 times. I added them up once, 24 times. Boys' homes, group homes, shelter homes, juvenile hall 9 times, to the kiddie jail. We're actually going there and stuff. And then I went to a place in Oregon called McLaren School for Boys.
Yeah.
Look up McLaren School for Boys. In fact, 1977, the state was being sued because we were being punched by the guards.
By the staff?
By the staff, yeah. You haven't been to that part yet, but I saw him the first day I was there. I saw him punch a kid, mouthed off to him. The guy hauled off and punched him right in the face. And I'm going, oh shit, this
is real.
This before. So I went there beginning of 1977. I did graduate from high school there. And finally, I actually, after all those boys' homes and stuff I was in, I never got off the bottom floor. I never had a chance. I ran away whenever. I just did what I wanted until they kicked me out or I'd run away. I didn't care. I really didn't. But because of that structure, all of a sudden I fell into this, and I got this extra green tag, so I had all these extra privileges and stuff like that. But they since I graduated from high school, I thought they were going to let me out. And they said, we're not letting you out. And I said, why not? They said, well, we think you're a drug addict. I said, I'm not a drug addict. I haven't done any drugs. Well, actually, I had, but they didn't know that. And so because the home visit thing with my parents, I went once, it didn't work. The pastor there at McLaren said, because I played piano, I played in the church, so I knew how to play out of the hymnal. So he said, let me take you to the old folks home here, and you're going to sit and play the piano for them. So I did, and he ran off, and I took off the back door, and I ran, and I hit the freeway, and hitchhiked, and ran. So on the road for a little while, ended up in Redding, California, had quite a lot of experiences along the way.
So you're broke teenager hitchhiking all over
Doing what
the
I
West
can.
Coast.
I will tell you this once. So I'm going down there, and I had been picked up by a Asian fella, and we're driving, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, his hand was in my pants. So he was, goofing around with my Johnson down there. So I think I had shorts on or something like that. I think that was the first time I really experienced violence. We're going down the freeway, and mind you, I was not a tough guy at all. I was just a skinny kid, but I'm punching him in the side of his face and just beating him.
While he's bombing down the highway at 60 or 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. So he ended up pulling over, and I got out. I'm cussing at him the whole way, but I remember how good I felt and how powerful I felt. And I said, yeah, I like this. So the adrenaline was running.
And I haven't gotten too deep into it, but I gather that's the first of many stories that head down a less than colorful path.
I like to say this. It's important to understand I was not tough. I believe there are no tough guys. I've seen the toughest guys later on in prison. I've seen I've seen the toughest guy taken down. No one can beat this guy. Semi-professional boxer, and he got stabbed by 2 kids and killed them. So no, there are no tough guys. Just desperate people doing desperate things, and I was desperate. So all right. So to pick up on the story, keep it moving on, or did you want to sit here for a little while?
I mean, I think we're painting a good picture, and yeah, I mean, we could spend 20 hours going through this effortlessly. I think, and I imagine we'll talk about this again. But let's do the high level. So, you've been in and out of foster care. You're on the run a lot.
Yeah.
As I understand, at some point you finally become emancipated and are allowed to legitimately just
Get out of McLaren.
go and be on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens there? You get out of McLaren.
Well, I went right to the streets. Remember, in McLaren, I ran a second time, ended up on the streets of Seattle. So I got caught. So I just so excited to get down to the streets. So I went down to downtown Portland, got myself a hotel room, and I'm free. I think that night I did a bunch of LSD at the disco and had a bad trip.
Oh no!
Oh, yeah, it's really bad. I think I peed my pants.
Shit.
I did. Anyway, so it was just debauchery wherever I was at. Now I hustled on the streets. I made money. I think I may have mentioned to you. I'm very open about this. I was a male prostitute. I sold my body. I wasn't gay, but I certainly at least convinced myself I must be gay. That's how I made my money.
Yeah.
In the book, I talk, when you get to this place, I talk about that world. It's just a seedy underworld that's just really sad.
Yeah.
That people go down there looking for someone underage,
Yep.
16 years old, 17 years old.
How did you get into that? Like, there had to be some, transitionary period where you're like, oh, I need money, and like this is the most obvious logical conclusion, and not being gay yourself, not having the sexual interest
Right,
involved. How did that transition happen?
I met a guy at the Seattle Center, and we did some burglaries together. I just learned I didn't like to do burglaries because I didn't like to sneak around behind people's back.
Yeah.
So I'd rather take it from them at gunpoint. I felt like, I have higher standards than that, than sneak around. So he took me downtown. There he had a couple of girls that were friends of his. And the girls, I started hanging out with them. And the girls taught me. They said, hey, you ever think of hustling? I go, well, what's that? Because just like a girl's prostitute, you get a prostitute. A guy will pick you up. You go out, you do something, with them, jack off or whatever you do and stuff. And then you get money. And I thought, all right.
I can give it a go.
So how I made that transition.
How old were these girls, by the way?
Oh, my age. They were runaways.
So you're 16 or 17. This older guy that you met is what, 20s? Is he?
Oh, this other guy was my age too.
Oh, so you're all
Yeah,
16,
we're
17 street kids.
Yeah,
So
street kids.
everybody's drugs and partying, and then sex to pay the
Hustling at
bills.
night and to pay the bills, and
Just kind of going from hotel room or couch surfing, or
So I started hustling. So I just would go from hotel room to hotel room. Every day, my first job was to be able to pay for a hotel room the next day.
Yeah.
That was always my first priority. And then something to, get high.
Have a good
and
time.
Something to eat, and cigarettes, and then something to eat, probably was last. So
I have to imagine many of those. I have no experience in the realm, but I would imagine some of those experiences were probably a lot worse than others. I have to imagine that people that
Yeah.
are going and predating teenage people for sex probably aren't the nicest human beings on the face of the planet.
Actually, it's interesting. I used the opportunity. I felt good because I was wanted.
Somebody wanted you. Yeah.
So I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
Get picked up. Yeah, I was a good-looking kid. I had the anyway, the feathered hair, and stuff. So of course, I always knew around which buildings the wind was coming because the wind was my, the wind would blow my hair.
Blow my hair, make me look good.
Or bad. so street life. I loved it. I loved the street life. They had discos, teenage discos. And you go on these teenage discos, and they're really just in the back room. They always had a place with pillows and stuff, sex going on and stuff like that. Mescaline, and drugs were flowing freely. Mescaline made it from peyote.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, it was. I loved it.
I mean, honestly, when I was a younger man, like you talk about, sex and drugs and parties, like as long as nobody's getting hurt, like that sounds like a good old time,
Except that older gentleman would come in there for young kids like me.
And
So
that's
it was a
fucked.
cesspool. It really was. But here's the thing: I can only do this. I can only hustle, prostitute for about 2 weeks at a time, and I'd get to the point, I just couldn't do it. So I'd stick my thumb out, and if I was in Seattle, I'd go to Portland. I'd go back to Seattle, to Portland, Seattle. Only a week or a few days or a couple of weeks at a time. Kept going back and forth. Then I'd go down to San Francisco and L.A. and San Francisco, L.A. Just lead this life of hustling. I learned where the streets were, and I could live on the streets in just different places. And then I'd hitchhike back. And I hitchhiked cross country twice over the next 3 years. Just hitchhiked around, had a guitar around my neck, played a lot of music. I lived the life outside of the streets in rural areas as if I belonged there.
Yeah.
I was a chameleon. I could be whatever I needed to be at the time because that's how I survived. I had to survive off coffee change when people picked me up hitchhiking. That's instead of, yeah, so.
So you ended up doing some time in jail and or prison. And I don't know that I know this actually. The difference between jail and prison is 1 year and less is jail, 1 year and over is prison. Is that the way that works? As I understand it?
Typically 1 year, but I mean, jail is like usually a city jail or something like that, or
Yeah.
a jail is jail. It's temporary. It's considered temporary for whatever the length of time is.
Yep.
Prison.
So, obviously you'd been in and out of youth detention centers and that kind of stuff for
Right.
stealing and drugs and sex and all that kind of crazy stuff. When did you end up with your first like real bit of time for something? What was the event? What transpired? How'd you?
As an adult, there was one event, and I did the home invasion with some heroin addict friends of mine, and it was Seattle. There was a trick that I'd had, and we're actually going to. I was planning on shooting him.
Jesus.
He had done something that I felt disrespected me. He had been a trick, and he didn't give me any money. He just reached and gave me a sweatshirt, and that was my pay. So my buddy had a 9mm, and I said, let's go get this guy. He brings the cash box home he worked at a music store. That's where I met him, and so I knew where he lives because I'd been there. So we go there in the middle of the night, about 11 o'clock at night. And he knocked on the door, and guess what? He wasn't home. Saved me from going to prison for life.
You would have killed him.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do. But I knew that there were two men that lived upstairs, and they shared this house. And we went up the stairs on the side of the house and knocked on the door, and one of the guys came to the door, and I was there, and I said, "Is Dick live here?" And he said, "No, he lives downstairs." I said, "Oh, well, he told me to meet him here." It's starting to rain. I said, "Do you mind if I wait inside?" And he saw the look in my eyes, and he starts to shut the door. But my partner had the 9mm right there, and he put it at his head, and he said, "We'd really like to wait inside." So, we went in at gunpoint. One of them was naked at the time. We had them lay on the bed. We tied them up. And during that period of time, again, and in order for me to need to be powerful, and I was really high on a lot of drugs at the time. I made my own meth, so I was on meth. I was on other drugs. But I put the gun in his ear and grinded in his ear and saying, "Are you afraid?" In fact, at that time, something called the I-5 killer was going up and down. I said, "You don't know if I'm the I-5 killer or not," because the house was right off I-5
Yeah.
up in North Seattle off 80th. Anyway, so it was a nasty crime on paper. We didn't hurt them. They just tied them up. And we left them.
Physically.
Scared the ever living shit out of them.
Yeah, I understand they moved away right after
Oh,
that.
I bet I would have. Fuck this place.
Of course, I was so detached from what I was doing. Now, of course, it'd be like the horror
Yeah.
of someone coming in at gunpoint and doing that. But back then, I don't know. I didn't think anything of it. That's how far gone I was. That's how hard I'd gotten, through the period of time.
Well, when you start getting the shit beat out of you on the daily at 6 and told that you're nothing and stuff, I could see how that could.
Well, it's how I chose to handle it.
Well, and you put that on top of the teenager's brain's prefrontal cortex going offline for all of those years, and it makes perfect sense.
Severely underdeveloped.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and by design.
You literally don't have the skills to address
What were you
this.
thinking? I wasn't.
Which again, maybe a topic for another time, but can we ever really impact youth for that are struggling?
Yeah.
Can we have an impact, or when they start going south, or do we know more now than we used to? Is our therapy better designed to help, or are we just fooling ourselves? And once the damage is done, the sense of value is lost, or a traumatic event. Is that it? Are they just going to end up like I did until they turn their life around?
I was just going to say, I'm sitting in front of a guy that says that's not it.
Right. Exactly.
You turned it around.
That's not. I just, I would like to impact people at a younger age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that we do try. We have big brothers groups and stuff
Yep.
like that. For another time. Got
But
it.
yeah.
So, so I ended up doing this crime. Went down to Salem, had a moment on the street corner, big moment, and I just suddenly felt like, either I'm going to kill someone or they're going to kill me. That's where I was at.
Yep.
I wasn't ready to just hit the road again like I had done before. I was 21. People would pick me up hitchhiking now when I would ask for a coffee change. They'd go, no, get a fucking job. And they'd drop me off. So all of a sudden I was not the cute kid anymore.
Yeah.
And so I turned myself in, for that,
Damn.
state of Oregon. Now the next morning, when I woke up in the jail floor, I thought, oh shit,
I
what
fucked
did
up.
I do?
Maybe not such a good idea.
Shit, I should have stayed on the streets.
I did, but so yeah, I was just in jail for a couple of days. I was extradited back up here because it's down in Oregon. Extradited back up here, and yeah, I went to Shelton Correction Center.
Oof.
Yep.
Was there for a while. Got on a bad deal where someone sent my brother some money, and he brought in a lot of pot. It was at a special visit between my other brother, and I was able to get away from the guard and insert the pot up my rectum. And I was the big deal. Got pot, and that was just the big deal. So another guy sent $100, and another guy sent $70 and to my brother. But this time he ended up spending the money on something else. He was an alcoholic. And I got caught all of a sudden owing $170 with no way to pay it in prison. One of them was the president of the weight club.
Oh, good. So you got a pissed off
He was-
ape that you're locked in a cell with.
Luckily, he wasn't a dick, right? But he made it clear to me, Dwaine, you realize that
You're getting me my money. or
people
you're-
know about this, and people know about this. We have to do something.
We have to rectify this.
So I didn't want to check into protective custody because I had a lot of time to do. I knew I had an 8-year minimum, and I was going to do at least 5 years of that because of the weapon. And all right.
Weapon, sorry. Yep.
So
You were going to do 5 to 8 weapon involved.
I had some time to do, so I couldn't check into protective custody. And so I did a staged escape. One night, I ended up sneaking out. It was dark. It was like in the winter. And I crawled behind the units inside. And I got to where the barbed wire and everything out there is. I crawl on my belly, and there's a security car on the other side. So I stand up. You got me. You got me.
Guess I have to go to
Oh,
solitary.
so you went to solitary because you tried
Hold
to
on.
escape?
Yeah, hold on. So I'm going, you got me. Hey, no, I'm over here. He had fallen asleep.
Oh, God. He's just sitting in his car passed out.
So,
Oh my
I ended
goodness.
up walking to the administrative building, of which no inmate should be in the
Anywhere near.
administration where they hang out. And I go in the door, they're like, who are you? What are you doing? And I said, well, I was out there. That other guy, he was asleep. And so I guess he lost his job.
Oops.
So never went to protective custody, never told on anybody. I just said I was in a drug deal that went bad. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. So I spent the 6 months in the hole.
You spent 6 months.
In the hole, yeah. Of 1982 in the hole.
Let's talk a little bit of that, because I've read and heard a lot about this kind of stuff, and we're social creatures, whether you are a particularly social person or not. It's coming out that I'm seeing in science and research that is pretty much the worst possible thing for a human, is to be completely isolated like that. And I'll go up hunting and spend 2 or 3 days where I don't hear from people. Like 6 months of nothing but you in a room. You never got, in 6 months, you never left that room.
Well, I mean, you get an hour out.
An hour a day.
Got a shower like every other day or something. But no, an hour was in a breezeway. You're just in a breezeway.
By yourself still.
By yourself, yeah. Yeah, now I would see people on the other side of the fence and talk a little bit. But
how was that time?
so here's the deal. It wasn't the isolation. Although, yes, I would crave human interaction. And that's where people tend to get in trouble, because any human interaction, good or bad, is going to work because you crave it. There were some things that happened there that were pretty brutal. I know one guy, when they racked the doors shut, he would put his head in there to try to squish his head when it's shut. So he was a little off. There was one guy who had thrown urine and feces on one of the guards. And the guard decided to get him back, where there were guys going to Walla Walla Correction, which is nasty. If you're going to Walla Walla, so it's the worst of the worst, right? And there were guys there, and they would feed us, and because they would help, bring food to us in the solitary like that. The guard let a couple of them in with a young boy, let a couple of those in and just let them in the room and walked away. And the screams were probably the hardest thing for me to hear, of the penetration, being raped.
Jesus Christ.
So that was just down. That was about 10 cells down there. But I still, it's the big. Everything echoes anyway, and the screams would. It was haunting, because you can tell what's going on, and the guys are laughing, at the same time.
These are inmates or guards?
Well, these were guys on their way to Walla Walla that were let in by the guards to get back at him for the kid for throwing.
And how old was this kid, do you think?
Gosh, that one, he couldn't have been more than 19 or 20.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Another guy seemed to have the ability to, in an evil way, to talk other people into slicing their wrist or to committing suicide. He would just talk, because you have there's cells, right, with bars, and there's someone next to you. You could talk to them,
talk to the person,
right? So you aren't in this. It's not like Shawshank Redemption, where the door is shut, right? There are bars, and you can have some talking and interaction, back and forth. And he would do that. He got a piece of glass, somehow got a piece of glass somewhere, and he gave it to him. And the guy had sliced his wrist, and blood was just all over the room. Just stuff like that. Those types of things that kind of get embedded in your head. But I always looked at it then, like, I'm doing time. This is
part of the gig.
This is part of the gig. A lot of guys don't look at it that I have rights. It's like, I never really felt like I had any rights. I look what I did to those people. So that I looked at it like that. But I was sent to Monroe State Reformatory. It's different back then. That's when you walked in the prison, and the prison doors were open during the day. Guys were just in each other's rooms smoking weed, just doing their thing, doing your business. And sure enough, someone gets killed, and that changes everything. And so Amos Reed, who had been down in Oregon, turned that state around, came up here. He knew how to turn prisons around and gain control back, because the control was in the inmates at that time. So they started that. So that's when I happened to come in there at that transitionary time where they started taking these privileges back. So Yeah, I was there for a short while. I had a spiritual experience, when I was there. It was a Christian-based experience that I think was a turning and a pivotal point. That was based on what I believed back then.
Yep.
I don't necessarily believe that way now, but it was really good for me.
I was gonna say at the time,
It
it's the
was
tool for the job.
It was a tool for the job. It was very important to me, and I lived like that in there. And I had a huge transition. And when I was there, computers came in, and the TRS-80s that I talked about last night. I remember typing my name at the prompt, which is, that was basic, right?
Yep.
It's just a line of stuff. And I typed Dwaine and hit enter, and it said syntax error. And I actually thought, what the fuck's wrong with my name? That's what I thought. And my joke is that I've been out to beat it ever since. But I learned what a field was what a record was, and what a file was, what a UI was, data entry screen, and there's labels and stuff. So I conceptually learned that on something called Profile 3 Plus.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's way back. But yeah. Something like that. So anyway, those were good years, actually. Those are pretty good years.
In Monroe?
In Monroe. After I had turned things around. It's an interesting thing in there, because sometimes people think, well, people leave you alone. People oftentimes ask questions about that. Here's the deal. If you stick with something, you want to be gay, you be gay.
Yeah.
You want to go to church, go to church. We respect that. Most convicts will have that respect for that. What you want to be part of the biker group, then you want to act like a biker, that's fine. You want to suck dick behind the bleachers, that's fine. Don't hold it against you, right? We have need for people like you.
Yeah.
So it's a long line around the corner. But you do something, and you all of a sudden now you're doing something else, and you dabble in that, people will not have respect.
That's a problem.
You. That's a problem. So you're walking a fine line, whether if you're going to carry a Bible around, you are walking a fine line. Just if you're getting your dick sucked over there in the corner and doing that, people will call you out on it, and there won't be any respect for you.
And that's when the trouble starts.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about prison, I think, is really important. And people watch Shawshank Redemption,
Yep.
and we
Love that
watch
actually.
movies. It's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, it is. Generally, and there are prisons like that. There are. Santa Fe, there's a number of horrible ones, but general prisons, does a group of guys grab a guy and take him out, back and fuck him like that? Not really. I think there was one physical rape when I was there, and he got his comeuppance by other people. So that's just how that goes. It doesn't work like that. It works like this. Yeah. You ever seen a spider catch a fly?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first thing it does. It builds a web. Gets a web. Gets them entangled in the web. It flies into the web, doesn't see it, and trapped in the web. The spider will go down, and it'll bite it. It injects venom into the fly. It does. It paralyzes them. Now, that spider can do whatever it wants with that fly. It can, throw it up in the air, play basketball with it. It can put it in a corner for later. It has paralyzed it. That is the really a good metaphor for what happens. There's a web. Brand new kid comes into the joint, and you're wearing duck clothes, right? Duck clothes are just the blue jeans, a white shirt. Everyone knows you're new.
Yep.
You don't have clothes from mom yet. You can get clothes at that time from mom, so you don't have the uniforms or anything like that. But you have duck clothes, and he comes in, and somebody comes over and goes, "Hey, you want a shirt? No, I'll just give you a shirt. Yeah, you got duck clothes. Do that." So you befriends them a little bit. A little bit later, "Hey, you want to smoke a joint?" "Oh, I don't have any money." Yeah. Oh, they try. "Oh, I don't have any." No.
Just here to get high, have a good time.
Man, we're gonna have a good time. No, I got weed, man. All right. I wanted to do it too. So yeah. So smoke a little weed with it. Well, the kid gets his clothes from home, gets this brand new Nike, size 9.5. Friend comes over there and goes, "Oh, you got your stuff. That's nice." He looks at those shoes. He goes, "What size are those?" Yeah, I think that'll work. Yeah, that'll work. Let's do that. Now, two choices here. First choice is the kid gets up and just starts throwing down, kicking, gouging, poking in the eye, just, he's probably going to get beat up, but just go off,
Make
because
his point.
people don't want to take something from someone that wants to fight. There's always someone that won't fight.
Yeah.
So you fight, win or lose, people don't want to fuck with you.
It's too much trouble.
Or that's so you got him in that web. You got him in that web. You know what the bite is? Fear. And if fear takes over, he's paralyzed. Now the guy, later on that night, he's going to get down there, and they're going to do it because of fear. And so it's not an aggressive takedown. Guys hold you down. It's a very subtly using fear to just rob you of any dignity.
You no longer feel that you have a choice.
Yeah, I saw that happen time and time again. Sometimes, now I was a chapel outreach worker for a while. Sometimes I couldn't do anything about it. You got to do it without snitching. I would just say, I got this guy and he's in a cell. I don't think it's really working. I really needed to do a move. There's an empty cell up there. Can I move him up there? And usually they do it. But one time the guy had so much money, and his name is Rich, and every night he's getting down there. Come on. And he's just using and abusing him. But he knew the captain. And the captain said, yeah, I don't know. I think he's good in there. So even that's corrupt. Even there.
Just turning a blind eye.
Paid.
Yeah.
He's paid. Yeah, he's paid a lot of money. So, yeah, but anyway, just as an analogy, that's kind of what you live with. I've been afraid in there. I think there's a deep level of fear wherever I was, there, even in juvenile hall. But I did learn how to navigate. I learned how to get myself out of problems. Someone in there found out that I was hustling on the streets. And here I am carrying a Bible. And so I had to deal with that. And the guy who said it and heard that I refuted it came up to me and said, why are you calling me a liar? He was a big guy. He was a big boy. He was just one of these just brawn, like meat. And I did not want to fight him. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, no.
So I don't remember everything I said, but I just talked my way out of it. So thank God for that. So go through prison. So I did 5 years, 5 years and 2 months. I had hopes when I got out that I can help some companies store their information, because or at least do data entry for $6 an hour. Because if I got a job in a restaurant, I was going back to prison.
Something stupid was going to
There's
happen.
just no value. There's no sense of value in my skills. At all. So let me tell you the challenges real quick. Let me grab this.
You gotta catch that guy there. It's wrapping in your leg.
All right.
Grabbing some bullet points here.
Yeah. It's just I'm getting old and I can't remember all these.
I'm not that old and I can't remember anything.
All right. Thanks for that brief pause.
Yeah.
Guys. And this is, not everyone's going to go to prison. But we all come up to challenges. And that's just it. My challenges might have a little bit of grandiose to them. Not everybody goes to prison. Challenges are challenges. And getting out of prison, we understand most people go back. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I saw my friends drop like flies, come back, or do heroin. And we walk the big yard together. I go, man, what is this? So just take a look at the challenges that I had. Well, I was a convicted felon.
Yeah,
for
that doesn't help.
robbery.
Yeah.
I had no conventional life insurance, where you work and you come back and pay your bills and, go out on a Friday night. I've never done that. I had no post-high school education. Thank God I had a high school
At least a high school education.
But I had no post-high school education. I had no job skills, really.
Yeah.
I can type quickly, and I use that.
Hey,
and
that's-
it's good
yeah.
data entry. I had no resume. The previous 10 years are incarcerated or living on the streets. I had that working against me, just as far as a mindset. I had a convict mentality. I did. And what that means is I can spend the rest of my life here and I'm okay. I'm all right with that.
Just
All right.
institutionalized.
Yeah, yeah. A certain amount, yeah. I felt safe.
You know what to
And
expect.
I wanted out, but I felt safe. I had a dormant drug addiction I didn't know I had, right, at the time. I was an alcoholic, didn't know it. I was technically, because I'm allergic to the way, alcohol sugars are processed in my body, and I have that part of alcoholism in me. Extremely low emotional maturity. I believe I had the emotional maturity of maybe 12 or 13 years old. Certainly not as much as your daughter.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I'm not even sure I have that maturity. If I'm being honest.
It was a softball across the plate. Yeah, very, very poor social skills. I was very difficult to be around. I am quite sure. My reality and where I had been and trying to adapt out here was tough. Girls liked me.
Well,
They liked the bad boy.
Yeah, it does work.
I got invited over to a prayer meeting by one girl, and I went over there, and that's not prayer. That's not that night.
Yeah.
And an undiagnosed mental condition. I was bipolar. It took me many years to figure that out.
So here you are, fresh out of jail, very little education, very little sellable skills, and like I said, you have to check certain boxes on job applications that are not flattering.
No.
Doesn't help.
So it's interesting. I understand this stereotype, and I'm not putting anyone down in any way that struggles with finding a job. But I found holding my head up and acting like I belong there.
Yeah.
Not going in groveling, saying, I just got out of prison. Please give me a job. Please. If I don't, I can't pay my work release. I really need they went to hire me. I looked at her in the eye when she asked for a resume, and I said, how'd you like to be part of a success story? I looked at her right now. Now, how does that come out of an emotionally stunted kid? I've never understood it.
Divine intervention.
But I believed it. Mm-hmm. I did believe it. I believed I was going to be successful, and I said, how'd you like to be part of that? No, they're not going to say no.
Yeah, it's a pretty it does kind of gave me goosebumps. That's a powerful statement.
It is. It wasn't meant to be manipulative. It probably was a little bit. But that's how I carried myself. So anyway, and that's how I started my software development. She said, the same person said, can you build us a 1099 system using DBase 3+? And I said, yes, I can.
Were you confident that you could actually do that, or were you just...
I had no idea. I didn't know what she was talking about. she had a box. You know how software came in a big box?
Oh, yeah.
Then?
Manuals and floppy disks.
A manual and floppies.
Yeah.
So RBase for DOS was big for me back then. But anyway, hands me the box, and I load up the stuff on the hard drive, on the 10 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a hard drive. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I struggled. I really did for a couple of days. I went back to her. And this is an important lesson for everybody, all of us. I went back to her and I said, I'm just taking your money. I'm sorry. I was embarrassed. I said, I'm really sorry. I just don't get it. And she thought about it. She knew my story by then. And she said, you know what? I think you're going to get it. Just keep trying. You know what? First of all, we all need to hear that. Mm-hmm. We all need to say that to each other.
Yep.
You're going to get it. And mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mean it. Say it to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Say it to yourself. You know what? I'm going to get this. Oh, how many times has that pulled us through? Just saying it, that if we didn't do it, say that, we probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
We just got to go through it.
Breathe it into reality.
Well, and going back to what we were talking about earlier this morning, finding that grace for yourself and being able to hold that grace for yourself in your struggles and in what you've gone through, and not only have that for yourself, but also be able to afford that to other people, right?
Yeah.
That when you are talking about how do you keep a child from going down that path, that's part of it, is offering up that grace and that space for these people to be what they were meant to be and not what they're pigeonholed into.
Well said, sister. Well said. Yeah.
So this was the water heater company, was it not?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So no, that was just at the beginning. So I lived with one important note. I couldn't have done it without Dan and Vera Gunnarsson. Changed the name in the book.
Yeah.
Dan and Vera Gunnarsson. They were Christians,
Yep.
and they came into the joint to help us, and they gravitated towards me, and I gravitated towards them. Now you understand, I have no parents really to speak of, no relationship with my parents, and just the idea of someone liking me is like, wow,
Overwhelming.
overwhelming. Dan and Vera, and so they actually started to come in and not visit me there. They waited, so I got sent to the honor farm. So when I was sent to the honor farm, they came to visit me there. Eventually, she came to visit too, once a week by herself, and she would bring me goodies, crackers and cheese and just cool stuff I hadn't made. I just loved it, and she would come out there. And one time, she gives me a hug, and she's 52 years old. I'm 26. All right, just for the age difference. And she gives me a hug by the baseball field. I really hadn't been that close to a girl in a while, and she can detect, and I was embarrassed about the touch of it, and I called her that night, and I said, I am so sorry. I am so embarrassed. I was, and I remember trying to be a Christian at the time. I said. Yeah. I'm so sad. And you know how she responded? You think she would go, well, don't worry about it, but thanks a lot. I appreciate it. She goes, she was offended. She said, I understand it wouldn't be right, but I mean, you make me seem like a woman that wouldn't, appreciate that or something like that. And I thought, okay, and she was upset. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. As I'm getting out of pre-release, ready to parole to a work release facility, and she visited me, and when she left, she kind of gave me a little kiss. It used to be on the cheek. She kind of kissed me on the lips, and she hung it there for a little bit. I'm sorry, 3-4 seconds. Huh? She gets home. I called her. I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was sincere. Mm-hmm. I'm oblivious.
Most men are.
I am oblivious to the fact that she had been grooming me.
Weird.
Grooming me. So anyway, to make a long story short, I was having sex with her before I even got out of work release.
I was going to say, I'm like, so when did that happen?
Pretty quick. She showed me her breast one day.
You're like, it's
and it was all over.
Yeah. And then I'm deep. Then I'm all in. I mean, there comes the time. It isn't like, oh, what am I doing? Oh, I knew what I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
I was taking care of business that her husband couldn't take care of. So I was. And that's what I was. That's why she brought me there. But I couldn't have done it without him. I didn't have too far to fall. I had my own business and doing software development because I loved doing it. And I had to learn.
Just all self-taught in jail.
It was, and on the job training, figuring stuff out. I had failures, just to make clear. Had
experiments.
Failures. I didn't understand a lot of things about networking, and I didn't about locking files and stuff like that on multiple. I didn't understand any of that kind of stuff. It took me a while to figure that out, but I lived there for 3.5 years. And got married. Shouldn't have. Extremely immature. That lasted 8 years. She shouldn't have been married either, and I shouldn't have been. You can like each other a lot, just don't get married. I mean, unless you're sure, unless you're, I was still extremely immature. I was rageful. I discovered I had rage.
I bet.
How could you
Do
not?
you think maybe I had fear of abandonment?
No.
So when we would get in an argument, I'm just being truthful here and I'm being transparent about this. I'm not proud of this. And guys will say this, I never hit her. I didn't, but I certainly obstructed her way out the door.
Yep.
That's physical. It is. I actually couldn't let her go to bed alone. She wanted to go by herself. I would crawl up behind her. The fear of abandonment, that fear, I just had to know everything was okay. I just had to know everything. There had to be something back, and I really battled with that. So I went to therapy. I eventually went to therapy for that. And that's where I realized for the first time that my parents did not treat me well. I did not know it. I didn't
Really?
I knew what they did, but I didn't
You
get
just
the
assumed it was
core
I think it's
normal.
normal, yeah.
And so I was able to have guided imagery. You have heard of
it,
that?
yeah.
So guided imagery, taken up, you have something in a backpack. What is it? Take it out. What is it? And just had some really powerful, powerful moments with that. And I realized, oh, I don't own my wife. Oh, I don't own her. There's nothing I can do if she do what she does. I can't prevent that. And it was that freedom of not being obsessed, so fearful that she's going to run off. It said, and all that kind of stuff. So that was a big breakthrough. Learned I was an alcoholic. Yeah, I almost went back to. I was drunk one night, hanging out in downtown Seattle, waiting for a drunk to come out of the back of a bar, and I can rob them. I had sunk back to that point.
So you're out of prison now, and you're about to rob somebody.
10 years later, 10 years later, yeah. So I had left her, going through some tough times. I didn't, and that was the last time I ever drank. I ended up going down to California. My wife's brother was the CFO of an organization that owns recovery centers. So I got a free bed.
Nice.
Do you mind if I ask,
Yeah.
what stopped you in that moment from
Okay.
doing what you were about to do?
Well, I'll tell it like it happened.
Uh-huh.
And I think other people may have different interpretations. I think that yours will be the same as mine. I went to the University District and I purchased some meth, probably enough to kill a horse. And I said, give me a needle. And he gave me a used needle. And I had a truck, and I took my truck over right off University Avenue in this parking lot, and opened the door, and I take my shoe off, and I'm trying to tie off my arm with my shoelace and hold it. I couldn't do it. I'm trying, it's really hard. The shoe's there, and I'm drunk, but I'm done. I'm going to do this, and I'm done.
Like you're done, you're going to finish yourself in?
Yeah, I'm just going to take it.
No? Wow.
All of a sudden, a man shows up here. Told you I'm going to tell like it is. I still remember it. He was absolutely beautiful. Bronzed face, golden hair. I'm taken aback. And he goes, "Hey, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, can you?" I said, can you do this part, tie my arm off? And I don't remember what he said. He just started talking to me like this in a very calm voice. I think I remember him once saying, is that something that you really want to do? But again, I don't recall everything, but he just talked to me like this. And he I gave him the meth, gave him the needle. And all I can tell you is that he's just gone.
Wow.
It's crazy.
He's gone. And I started crying.
Yeah, I would too.
So, yeah, I get to a phone. I call my daughter, just crying. And her just broke.
How old's your daughter at this time?
She was probably 19.
Okay.
From my first stepdaughter.
Yep.
So I checked myself into the treatment center, and last time I had a drink. And that's been good. I don't need a drink in my hand. Everybody's better off. That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
You see me with a drink, call the police. By the time they get here, I'll have done something. I'm serious. I am just not a good drunk.
Just doesn't work.
Oh, we'd be throwing down.
That's not, yeah.
You think you'd be thrown down with him, you'd be thrown down with me.
I'm going to sick my wife on you.
No, please no. I picked the weaker one.
Yeah. You thought things were bad in prison, Dwayne. You haven't seen anything yet.
What happened at the pool match last night?
I don't want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something that you're uncomfortable with?
No, actually, being emasculated by my wife, I'm exceptionally comfortable with.
There's no better way.
I was going to say it's the right thing to do. Once I figured out focusing on one woman was the win, everything became clear and easy. But
Boom.
So what kind of questions? I mean, do you,
I wanna-
we've covered a lot of area that has a lot more detail, but what can people get out of this? I mean,
I want to circle back on that. There was a story that we visited yesterday that I stopped you on because I wanted to be with you for the experience of telling this story. But you had mentioned a brutal rape, which not a subject I want to talk about, not a subject I want to hear, but it is the point of some of this. So
does happen.
let's, if you're comfortable, let's do that story. So just set us up the time frame and all that.
How are we doing on time?
How long do you have, baby?
6 minutes left. All right.
You got time, or should we? Actually, should we just take a break right now? And because
Take a break and get it when we get back.
I need to hit the bathroom really quick. Let's come back to this subject.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone. I gotta head out of town, so
Somebody's leaving us.
Yeah.
Rude. All right, let's.
thank you for being here, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Let's pause this bad boy up. We'll come back.
Late November, a few years ago. Cold and frosty days, too early for snow. Same old thing, baby, night and day. Gotta keep more to life, you know I gotta get away. Greyhound sleepers, tavern balls, street talking, runaway girls and graffiti walls. Life in the city, downtown blues, late night whores on 3rd Avenue. That's the part I like right there.
It is so good.
Smooth, baby. About that time you came along, you said that you was tired of that same old song. So we packed our bags, baby, a bottle of wine, headed for California, hoping we wouldn't find Greyhound sleepers, tavern brawls, street talking, runaway girls and graffiti walls. Life in the city, downtown blues, late night whores on 3rd Avenue. All this is true, you know.
This is your song.
Yeah, all this happened. Let me tell you what happened at the end. We found ourselves in Frisco Bay. We was hoping for a change of luck. We was looking for a place to stay. We found ourselves a place we called home. A cockroach haven and no dial phone, baby. Market Street sleepers, disco brawls. The meat track boys, where do they call? Yeah. 'Cause life in the city, downtown blues, late night whores on 3rd Avenue. Ooh, yeah.
God damn. Nice. So this is an original of yours.
Yeah.
So let's quickly hear the story about that.
About the original hair? Well, yeah. I mean,
What's the name of it? I guess. Do you have a name for the song?
yeah, I call it 3rd Avenue.
3rd Avenue. All right.
3rd Avenue.
3rd
In
Avenue
case
by
anyone's
Dwaine Casmey.
Thinking about stealing it now, it's already showed that we came up with it first. We
Well,
have it time stamped right
Yeah.
there.
When's the album coming out, man? That's what I want to know. That's good stuff.
I'm working on some stuff, but yeah, just to go back in time, the streets are funny places. You don't lead the life that I did, and no one can ever tell you that they did lead their life that like I did.
Let's get that mic just a little closer up on you, sorry.
My bad.
There we go.
You don't lead the kind of life that I did. And sometimes you're on top, right? Sometimes you're the guy on top. Sometimes you're the victim, and everyone at one time or another is a victim. as an example of that, I was traveling from New Orleans back up to Dallas, where I had a paycheck waiting for me at a restaurant I was working at.
Yeah.
And I was hitchhiking through, and I ended up in downtown Houston. Didn't know where I was, just walking around. And remember, I'd seen the seedy side of every city, so I could walk. I felt like I could walk anywhere.
Anywhere.
And I was walking down, and I was in this back parking lot, and there's a guy there wearing he was shirtless. He had a vest on. He was African American, big guy, big muscles and stuff. And I still remember he goes, "Hey, you want to get high?" And I said, "Sure." So I go over there. I already had weed though, and he goes, "Yeah, do you have any?"
Hey, wait a minute. This is not the sales pitch I was looking for.
So I break it out. I was looking for my bottle's right here. So I get it out. We're smoking pot. Now he was letting me know he had just gotten out of prison.
Yeah.
His name was Chico.
Chico.
Badass guy. And so we're sitting there talking. We smoked the weed. Got up to leave. And all of a sudden, when he got up to leave, he had me by my shirt like this. He was facing me, grabbed my shirt with the other side. He puts a knife to my throat right here, so it's touching my skin. It was a nasty knife. And again, like before, I thought of my mom. My mom is going to be really sad, I think, over this. And now you understand, I was dressed. This is important to the story. I was dressed like I was like a jock. I got better rides. I got rides better. I had like one of those, a football shirt on number 12 or something like that, a jeans, and I just got rides, quicker than looking dirty. So I was kind of like a jock type, and which is, I believe, why I was picked for this. And I thought he was going to rob me. So he pushes me between two buildings, which is about 3 feet apart. So really, I'm between two buildings, and no one's around. He said, "Listen, maybe if you're lucky, I'll leave you. I'm going to stick you, but I'm going to leave you. So maybe someone will come by and find you before you die."
Jesus.
So I'm looking at him. He's facing into where I was standing in between these buildings. It was dark. And suddenly he goes, "Turn around." And all right, so I turn around, so my back is facing him. So I thought, okay, it's coming. He's going to stick me from behind. So that's a weird feeling where you're just waiting for this to happen.
Die.
And then he goes, "Turn around again." And so now he's had somebody, so I'm going to turn around, and here it comes. So I think I'm going to turn around. He decided to do it to my face. I turn around. And then I looked at his eyes, and I looked across, and I realized, oh. And suddenly, because I had been a male prostitute, I was able to look at him and go, "Oh." So I was able to say, "Oh, that's what you want." And so I made friends with him. That I felt that was the best thing. I made friends with him, and so we left together. He took something. He took a couple things from my bag, and so he made me follow him. And we went to it was a very dark part of the city, and we went to this dive bar, and it was only African Americans. I was the only white person in there, and people seemed to treat Chico with respect. I did notice that people would, treat him like that. And so I kind of had to hang around there for a while. And yeah, I could tell everyone was looking at me. They don't know what I was doing. And then he left with me again. And I thought about running, but I thought, oh, shit, what if he catches me?
Yeah, now he's going to be real
At
mad.
least now I'm alive. And, because of my past, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I thought, at least I'll tolerate that. So he took me to an apartment. He said it was his sister's apartment, and all the apartment had, all that was there, was a mattress on the floor. And the mattress was piss stained. It smelled like shit, like they had shit in the room even. It was filthy. And So yeah, he at that point he raped me on that mattress. So so then we left. When we left, I still had to follow him. We went to a restaurant, and he sat with me for a little bit. Then he got up and he left me there. So when he left, I thought, I should be crying. And so I kind of manufactured some tears for a second, but they went away real fast. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to have to get harder. I'm going to have to get tougher than this. And that's what I learned from that moment. So, yeah.
Well, you're here, and I'm glad.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So it's hard out there, but I chose it. Now I got to where I was the predator, man. I hate using that word. I don't mean predator like kids or anything like that. I mean, I would trick, and I would beat them up. There was one time when I waited till the guy went to sleep, and I picked up a lamp that had a large porcelain base. He's asleep face up, and I smashed the base over his head so I can knock him out, so then I can just go through his pockets and take the money. God dang it. Well, I woke him up, and he jumps up. Now I'm fighting with him in the room and stuff, and he's pissed.
Oh, I bet.
And then he's like, all right, get the fuck out of my room. Get the fuck out of my room. So I had no shirt on. All I had was my jeans. I had my shoes there and everything else. So I run out. I get all the way to the lobby. I realize I got jeans and I got no shirt. So I actually had to go back up there. I ring his number, and he said, yeah, I threw your shit in the stairwell. So I just threw my clothes and stuff in the stairwell. I got him. But again, yes. So I just, there's, when you lead that kind of life, it's, you got to be ready for anything. And I stole a lot of things. Emphasizing again, I wasn't tough. I was desperate. I just really want to emphasize that. This is not
difference.
a tough guy. Yeah, I was
I'm
bad.
in charge.
I'm in charge. Yeah, when I was in prison, I used to make everyone go to the church, and if they didn't, I'd kick their ass. I read that once, and I go, oh, shut up.
Yeah. There was nobody like that there.
Yeah. So, I have run into people I was in boys' homes with, and somewhat made friends with them now and then. There's some sad stories out there. Guys are really struggling.
Yeah.
So
Well,
some aren't.
I'm curious. I want to take just a moment of a segue, because there's two topics here that I think are germane to conversation, specifically, in today's day and age. One, having been in prostitution yourself, what are your thoughts around the legality of that? Because, you hear, I don't want to pin the Christians, but, the Christian and the right side, kind of are very anti-prostitution. Understandably, it's not well colored in the Bible. And then on the other hand, you've got some liberal views of hey, you can keep the people a lot more safe that are involved. You can do STD testing. You can have more secure environments where, people aren't going to get abused and fucked with necessarily. With your experience, what are your feelings about, where do you land with that?
Well, I mean, you are rationalizing why something can occur, even though we all know that no baby wakes up at day one and goes, I want to be a male, I want to be a prostitute.
Yeah.
Guy says that, no girl says that. It's not something that they want to do. So understand, to get there is a hard road. What you're saying is there's something that we're just going to go ahead and accept, which isn't good, but at least we can regulate it. And, there's taxes, like the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been
I haven't,
there.
but I know that prostitution is
the
legal.
red light district. You go by there, understanding. And the thing is, it's legal there. And here was my thought. How did she get there?
And that's, yeah.
I now, from my point of view, I have a difficult time with it. I feel bad for them, but if they're there, I don't know. Are we saying that it's okay to be traumatized when you're a young age and end up, selling your body, and we're gonna benefit from this by having men come and get to fuck you?
Oh, and we're gonna get tax dollars. Yeah, that's not a pretty story either.
This isn't the marijuana law.
Yeah.
This is,
Well, I guess that's the reason I posed the question, is because I I see both sides of both arguments,
do
and you know,
too.
it's just I don't know that there's a right answer, because
Yeah.
like really, if it comes down to somebody is suffering or paying the consequence for it, it's not worth it in my eyes. It should not be. But on the same note, you know, we saw what happened with teetotalers and whatnot. It's just like, look, if people want to get high and have sex and get drunk, which lots of people do, they're gonna do it.
Yeah, they have to be tested, and
And like you said, sometimes you're on top and sometimes you're the victim. And ugh,
yeah, I had a girlfriend that was a prostitute for a while, Michelle, and yeah, she ended up never really getting. She got beat up. She got her teeth knocked out and all that. She ended up mentally completely deficient, was confined to a wheelchair. Then finally, in her wheelchair, got hit by a car in a crosswalk and killed her, just a couple of years ago. And yeah, and so, you know, legalize it. All it does is our tax dollars now got to go pay cops to go ahead and do
police
police
working,
work
yeah.
around everything that goes with it. You got the needles, you have the AIDS, you have
drugs, STDs.
STDs. Yeah, you got the drugs. You have the riffraff that kind of goes along with that, because the girls are. Studies I've done, they're high, like most of the time when they go do what they do.
I've always wondered about that, because you know, I have dated a handful of strippers myself over the years, and one thing I always noticed, and not to be pejorative, but there were daddy issues and there were substance issues. Just it was part of the package deal. You know, I never ran into a super well-adjusted woman who was like, yeah, it's great money, like you know,
Oh, they'll pretend like it was, but if you start digging,
their shit.
yeah, I mean, they look like they are elegant, like the top Las Vegas. You know, you wouldn't even imagine she was a prostitute, but yeah.
I'll tell you what.
How did she get there?
I'll tell you what,
Same
having
thing.
having a daughter, fuck, did my opinions change so like I see a woman, I don't care what she looks like these days. She's under 30. I'm like, that's somebody's baby. That's somebody like
I
just,
try to most of the time. Yeah, I do. That's always an effort. I'm not always 100% successful. I'm a guy, but
Oh no, I mean,
I try.
everybody likes a beautiful thing. You know, everybody does, I think.
Yeah.
But well, one other topic there that kind of struck me that is germane again to today's conversations, this whole concept of cancel culture. And I'm not going to pretend to be particularly knowledgeable about it, but as I understand it, it's kind of like you do something that's horribly inappropriate in today's politically correctness, and you literally, like, you know, they'll wreck your career, like everything, they cancel you. Now, sitting in front of me is Dwaine Casmey, who went through all kinds of horrible shit, who I'm certain lots of people watching you rob people and do things would say, you know, fuck that guy, put him in prison forever, let him rot. He's a problem for society, but you're a success story. So it's like cancel culture concerns me, because here you are. And you can't throw away. I feel like, you know, if we don't take care of the less fortunate, like, we're not going to evolve as a society.
Listen, man. Here's a question that I think we need to ask. Do we want these people to get out and rob us?
And I mean, that's a very, and unfortunately, the statistics, you know, of recidivism, I believe is the word, reenacting whatever, are pretty high. Unfortunately,
Just going back to prison. That's
Yeah.
basically what they mean. Or doing the crimes again within a 6 to 18-month period. Yeah, it's very high.
Well, and you have no opportunities, you know, when you come out. Yeah, if you have to say that I'm a convicted felon and I spent time, like, a lot of people are just like, yep, thanks for your time, like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing around, you know, what are they qualified to do?
Yeah.
Any of these guys getting out, me too. You know, if you're qualified to go work in a can factory where you go around sweep up all the dented cans that makes cans and you put them in a box, that's fine. But you're going to be around people like at a restaurant. If you work at a restaurant, I always got drugs at a restaurant when I worked at a restaurant. You know what I mean? But when I worked for law firms and did litigation support, the secretary never came over to me and handed me a joint.
Yeah.
You know,
But the drugs were always there.
yeah, just didn't know about it. But you know, it's just a little bit different. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Wow. So we've now gotten into, you're in your 20s. You've gotten out. You've made friends with the church lady.
left there. Yeah, I moved to California. Again, you understand, I was still I was still the bad kid that was now okay.
Yeah.
I'm
You were on probation. You're being monitored.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but you know, it was about me being bad. And so I go down without understanding that I have issues with my parents. I go down and I actually stay with them for a little while to moved to there.
You actually moved in with
I'm
them.
back with the enemy, if you will. Now I'm living in enemy, but I didn't know it. I didn't know it. All I know, looking back, is I was extremely uncomfortable being around him, and I always found every excuse I had to borrow his truck and go somewhere. I just because they just sit
out.
in I just didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah.
You know, it's really uncomfortable. But a girl moved in with her two daughters, and her name was Greta, and we met.
Yeah.
And got in our dysfunctional relationship. Got married 4 months later, 5 months later.
Wow, quick, yeah.
4 months, and yeah, much to the chagrin of her kids, she had been married a few times, you know, before, a couple times, and we just really, you know, had a very, very dysfunctional, immature relationship. I don't blame her any more than me. We were both just, you know, not really understanding how to do this, but it got me. Number one, I understood about raising stepkids, made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
So then when I get my next chance, I you know, I had learned so much, and yeah, I forgot what the other one was, but
Yeah.
yeah, we divorced, and I met Kathy, my current wife.
22 years you've been married? Was it?
Yeah, so we met about 24 years ago, November. That song I played last night, "In the Eye of the Storm."
Yeah. I like that.
That was a cool song.
That's a
man.
good stuff. Dude, I got to tell you too, like I was a tidbit jealous when you were doing that, because I'm sitting here like, every woman I've ever heard, like, if a man can sing, like writes a song and can like perform it proper, it's like, I apologize for what I'm about to say, but like panties get wet immediately. Like it's just,
Nice.
it's, you know, it is the prima alpha move to, yeah, woo a woman. So well done, Kathy.
I would never throw back if someone threw their panties at me.
That would be rude.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd give them to my wife and say, "Look what I got."
Yeah, exactly.
She'd go, "Throw it back."
Like, you're such a filthy animal. Maybe that's just my wife. I don't know.
No, that was good. So I met her, and yeah, I mean, here's the thing: we really struggled for 5. Now I'm starting to gain some maturity.
Yep.
Finally, I still struggled with practical things. I like carrying wads of cash around in my pocket.
Yeah.
I didn't pay all my bills, you know, that type of a thing. And thank you to my wife that got me a really good credit score eventually, and got all my tax stuff. I had to pay $80,000 for the tax man, and that was a lot of money every month I had to pay.
I bet.
But I got that paid, and but we struggled because I think just for control, we were adults. I was 40, she's 48, she's 8 years older than me.
Yep.
And as adults, you're trying to vie for control. But then we kind of realized one day, wait a minute, what are you good at? Oh, then you do that.
Yeah.
You're responsible for that. Let me know if you need any help with that. If you think that I need to know something, I'm good at this.
I'll take care of this.
I'll take care of this. And then you know what we're doing? We're working like a team.
Your team. Oh, dude, it's the best.
Working as a team, isn't that? It's a team. I am as responsible for the dishes as she is. We are a team.
This is our home. We take care of it.
We take care of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And-
it's ours.
And then, yeah, isn't that nice?
It's funny how uncommon even today that is. I run into, and generally it's friends that are older than me, but you know, they'll give me shit about things. You're like, why are you doing all this stuff, you know, with your daughter? Like, you know, your wife can take care of that shit. It's like, dude, that's not the way I roll. Like, we're a team. Like, this is...
You and I are alike in a lot of ways. You talk about your feminine side. I like my feminine side. I'm very comfortable in it, who I am, what I think about, what I do. And I have always, I mean this, I have always felt for the plight of women since I was a little kid. I always felt that they got the shaft.
Yeah.
And I never picked on a girl. I never said anything derogatory to a girl because I just thought, well, one time, and a kid told me to say it. I told a girl that her breasts were too small, just because he told me to say it. And
dumb kid.
She slapped me. And, okay. I won't say that anymore.
Yeah, well, I guess that was the wrong thing to say.
But even on the streets, girls just, it's just sad. There were some real sad cases. So
I
I'd
bet.
befriend these girls and just, it's funny looking back, I didn't have sex with them.
Yeah, just
I could
loving
have.
on them, just legitimately, just like
I
you're
just
okay.
was to be there.
I'm here.
I thought, ooh, they get that all the time.
Yeah, they get skeezy creeps all the time.
All the time. That's what they do. I'm not going to be one of them.
No,
So,
well, good on you. We need to spread that around a whole lot more because a lot of our brethren do not behave so well all the time.
yeah. So let's talk about change. Change.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about change. Can you change? About what requires change? I've always said, if I understood why I'm here today, and my friends are either dead or they're back in prison, I would be a filthy rich man. If I can bottle it up
Yeah.
and create that formula, and I've got it right here, we would all be floating pretty, baby. I'm going to be your new best friend.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to hang out with Dwaine in Texas for a while. I'll be back, honey.
Oh, I'll have a place up here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to have places all over.
What's it talking about?
Getting filthy rich with coming
So
the change.
if I
aspect.
knew, why am I here to answer that question? I can tell you a couple of things that I did that might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Now, I am a person of resolve. If
Same
I
word.
decide something, negative or positive, I'm going to do it. One time I was on the street in San Francisco, and my girlfriend Michelle had already gone over to Arizona, and then I wanted to go over there. But I actually had to trick and save money for like the plane ticket, which was I think $170. Well, usually I get $20, I get a hotel, another $20. I was resolved to get that money.
I'm buying this plane ticket.
I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill
Yeah.
about that, and it just gave me this positive energy. Said I can do this. I saved that money in 2 or 3 days. I watched what I ate. I didn't spend it on anything unnecessary.
Yep. I had a goal.
And I even was able to pay for my cat to go in a crate in a cargo hold. Our street cat, which goes to the residential area, tore it up, man. Yeah, I'm from the big city. And resolve. So I have resolve.
Yep.
And the other one is I took risks. Now I was a risk taker already. I told you the story about how I said I could do a software, but I didn't really know it. When I was living in Arizona later on, ended up there, I went in to ask a restaurant if they needed a dishwasher.
Yep.
And they said, no. Listen, have you ever cooked? And I go, yeah,
Yeah.
I have. Now, I'd watch my brother breakfast cook. He can do it in his sleep. I'd watch what he does, and I always watched it from a sequence. The things that he did, takes the tickets, put that there, puts food on. He was good. So I've watched it. So he hired me. After the first day, at the end of the shift, he said, come here. He said, you've never cooked a day in your life, have you? And I said, no, sir, I haven't. He goes, I love your passion. You did good. You're hired.
Dude, fuck yes.
So
I love it.
So how far did I have to go to say, yeah, I can do that? I was already that kind of person. So that was a gift.
Yeah.
That we all have gifts, all of us.
Yep.
So, hey, reach inside and find your gift. If you're going through challenges, you have gifts. It's almost like those video games. You have a bag and stuff in the bag to help you get to where you need to go. One of them is just gifts. They're things that you can do that you're really good at.
Yep.
How can you apply that to your current situation? Are you really, really good at telling your friends, your best friend, the truth about something in a direction that they need to go? Yes, I'm really good at that. Then tell that to yourself.
Yeah. Turn that. Yeah. Look in the mirror.
If you can say it to your friend, say it to yourself.
Yeah.
Take the advice that you give a good friend,
Yeah,
one
well-
that you're careful about what you would say. You think about it and go, if I'm going to give advice to my best friend, I think I want to think about it a little bit. And you do that. Do that for
You
yourself.
deserve that yourself.
You do.
It's been really interesting in the last number of years. A lot of work that Sarah and I have been doing is, around positivity, if you will. I used to think it was such horseshit that, power of positive thought and stuff. Changing my vernacular in my head, the things I say to myself, because we're all our own worst critics, but I used to, you're dumb, you're fat, you're whatever these things are, and you're repeating, like, your body doesn't know the difference between reality and, in your head. The second that I, as dumb as it sounds, I went onto Facebook and Instagram. If you posted aggravating shit, I muted you. If you posted positive, uplifting things, I started prioritizing that. And I started changing my language around myself. And like you said, telling myself that I can do things, telling myself that I'm going to get through this, that I'm going to be successful. It works. Yeah. It really does. It's powerful stuff.
It is. I love talking about it too. In today's day and age, we need to take and evaluate what can we contribute to the world around us. What do we have that we, in addition to helping us get through challenges, what can we contribute? And here's what I love about this. I'm not talking about volunteering at some place. You could.
Yep.
I'm talking about when you go through that checker line, she's been on her feet, or he has been on his feet as the checker line in Safeway when you're leaving. Say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Just to let you know, I come in here all the time and I see you all the time, but I just want to let you know, I really appreciate you. You do a great job. I love coming in your line. You know what that does to somebody?
Who doesn't like hearing that?
They do. And what did it cost you to say it?
Yeah.
Nothing. There was no cost associated with it. But you benefit too, because when you leave, you just know I helped somebody that day. And it's just so simple.
Well, it's that butterfly effect. You improved that person's day, and maybe they were going to go home and lose their shit and beat the hell out of their kids tonight. But you know what? That's not going to happen now because you infected them with your positivity.
Save a spanking.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that earlier. I thought that was a really interesting point too. You talked about the word spanking not really being the right thing, because and you made a point that stuck with me. It's like, you're hitting your kids. Like, if I take a board outside and I start smashing the tree, am I paddling the tree?
Spanking it.
Yeah, you're not spanking that tree. You're not paddling that tree.
You're hitting
that tree. Like, you're hitting your kids. And guess what? When you do that, your kids are going to go out and hit other people as adults, because that's what they were taught to do.
Listen, there are wide ranges of, and I'm not going to change their mind, and they're probably not going to change mine. I only really have my own opinion, and I'm like you. I'm adamantly against spanking because I had ritualistic beatings, and and someone says, well, but my parents, they knew not to go too far. I know, but not everybody does. We're all fucked up. We're all capable of going too far.
And what happens when you lose? Yeah, you lose your shit.
Well, sometimes kids die, and we know that. It's on the news. And sometimes but sometimes it's just out of anger. Here's the deal. You're hitting your child, oftentimes out of anger.
Yeah.
And don't tell me that is, well, I just do a little love tap or stuff like that. Well, we're not talking about extremes, like a little, tap on the butt.
Yeah.
I'm talking about getting an instrument and hitting you in the ass with it. And at times when I kick my feet afterwards, I had, my white sock was completely bloody. The corner of the board had cut into my top of my foot. I didn't know it because I didn't feel pain. You know why I didn't feel pain?
You're so accustomed to it.
I had checked out. My body didn't feel pain. I can get burned and not know it. My body didn't feel pain. And that's why I don't really know what the weather is. I don't know if the room's hot or cold.
For everybody listening,
why.
I was complaining earlier. I'm like, I gotta turn the AC up. It's hot as shit in here. I'm sitting in a pink tank top, and Dwayne's like, I don't really notice the temperature. I'm like, how do you not? You live in Texas. How do you not notice the temperature?
I just don't, And he was.
It's 100 and hell outside.
He was whiny, by the way. It's just to make it So
I'm high maintenance, but whatever.
So going back to change, here's the deal: we can truly change. Some people say you change from the inside out. Other people say you change behaviors and you change inside. I don't care what you use or how you do it. I don't care if you're a 12-step. I don't care if you use resolve. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you become a witch.
Yeah.
And I could absolutely care less. Yeah. So we all need help. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know that I have a whole lot. I'm kind of hoping maybe we can convince you to play a little bit more music. Do you have something else you think you could play? Because for those of you who didn't have the joy last night, Dwaine played at our house for probably, 15, 20 people, and it was a hell of a good time. Just singing away in the background. The man has one hell of a skill set. It's a lot of fun to watch. So I would love to maybe close it out, and I'm hoping you'll come back and chat with us again. I'd love to hear more of your story, and I really encourage folks. You can find his book up on Amazon Kindle as well as paperback. It is
Roller
something
Coaster Hill?
Roller Coaster Hill.
Three words.
Yep.
3 words. Roller Coaster Hill.
Roller Coaster Hill. I'm a third of the way through it. It's an easy read. Other than some of the stuff, it's hard to read. So be warned. But give us some happy, Dwaine.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm happy here. All right. Well, I like to make shit up as I go along.
Well, that works. I can get down with that.
There you go. That's a little happiness.
Beautiful. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
This right here is just a little melody. It's a happy melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
This is dirty. You know how to take this just a little deeper dirty? You ready?
Let's do it.
Right? Is that a little dirty?
Gives it a feel. Fucking beautiful. Dwaine, thank you for making a flight from Texas, joining us, sharing your story. Like I said, I hope to have you back again soon. And,
Listen, I appreciate you so much. You put a lot of time and effort into this. People don't see this stuff behind, and I didn't. This is such a passion of yours, and I know you're going to become successful. I want to be part of your success story.
I want you, please. I would love for you to be part of my success story.
So I want to be around for that. So I'll definitely be back up here again. Thank you, and anyone listening to this, just keep walking through. Find a friend, talk, whatever it takes to help you get through. Please never give up. I didn't give up, and there's no reason to give up.
Never alone. Talk to you soon, folks.